Hello and welcome back to the Whatnauts review show number 270, where each week we have a different story to talk about. It could be a movie, a TV show, an anime, manga, comic book, all sorts of stuff. We read it, we watch it, we come back here and talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how has your weekend been so far?
It's been fun. Last night I went to a karaoke birthday party for a friend of the show, Jack. We had like 2.5 hours of solid karaoke time.
How'd that go?
It was fun. This place has a YouTube connection, so that's all I did. I sang no real songs. I sang with no sincerity. I mostly did commercial jingles.
There you go. Did you do "Fuck the Police" by N.W.A, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I did the "I have a structured settlement and I need cash now" opera from J.G. Wentworth.
Good. I love it. My weekend has been pretty good. I've been playing a lot of Starfield. In fact, if it was not for my girlfriend, I probably would not have slept last night. She fell asleep on the couch while I was playing late into the night. But by the time she woke up, I had been so focused on the game that I didn't know what time it was. I was just doing my thing in the game. She looks and is like, "Kyle, it's 4 a.m. We need to go to bed right now." I was like, "Oh shit, here we go." Okay. So I've been out there in Starfield doing space things all weekend, and it's fantastic.
That sounds dangerous.
Right. Yeah. But speaking of N.W.A, this is week number 2 of Shame-Tember 2023, where we bring things onto the show that are on our personal or kind of general pop culture lists of shame. And it was my pick this week. And since this year is also the 50th anniversary of hip hop, I decided to pitch some hip hop biopics. And so we picked N.W.A's Straight Outta Compton, which came out in 2015. I had not seen this one. And among the reasons why you ended up picking this one of the ones that I pitched was that Ice Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., gets to play his dad in this, which is a
unique experience. You don't get to see that very often. Sometimes you will have an actor's child playing a younger version of the same character that actor is playing, but rarely do you have your own child playing yourself in a biopic and have your child say, "I have a child on the way," referring to them themselves.
Right. Yeah.
A true piece of magic here.
Very much a unique experience.
You pitched this, Notorious, and Get Rich and Die Trying. And for those 2 movies, I was like, oh, right, those did happen. But I feel like Straight Outta Compton had a higher profile when it was released. And It feels like it's a more recent movie than being from 2015, maybe because people still talk about it. It seems to be held in pretty solid regard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the biopics that I pitched were kind of a mixed bag in terms of quality from what I understand. But this one seems to have hit pretty well with the general audiences and such. I had not seen this, and this has been on my list of things that I do want to check out because I've been a hip hop fan my whole life. I feel like I know a lot, but that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. I know more than the general person, the average person, but in my own personal knowledge and blind spots, West Coast rap is something I know not very much about. Of course, I know N.W.A. I know all the names and stuff, and some things in this movie that like, oh, I've heard people mention that. I know that by name, but I don't know much about it, right? So it was neat to kind of see all of that stuff. It was interesting because it felt like it felt like to me like what if someone made like a comic book graphic novel out of like characters that I know exist like in the Marvel universe, right? Of like, this is not the Avengers or stuff, it's the Defenders, right? And it's like, oh yeah, okay, I've heard of the Defenders, and I know that like Doctor Strange is on that team. He's pretty famous, right? But then like I don't know if I could really say exactly who else is on the team, but I know they exist and I've heard their names and stuff like that. So in a weird way, that's kind of what this felt like to me. Like I had a familiarity, but was like, I also don't know the exact story that happened here with this. So yeah.
And I knew even less. Do you know the part in Good Burger where they give Kel the contract to sign to like sell Ed sauce or whatever, and he's looking it over and he nods and he says, I know some of these words. That's how I felt. It's like, I've heard these names.
Exactly. And I think here on the review show a couple years ago, I was like, okay, Melissa, it is time to get you educated on hip hop. And so we read the first volume of Hip Hop Family Tree by Ed Piskor, which is a great book that'll be one of the ones I recommend at the end of the podcast here. But I think that the first volume ended with like a young Dr. Dre like wistfully looking out his window and just being like, I hear there is this thing called hip hop that maybe I should look into one day. So we didn't really get that side of the story. So I've been looking forward to this and talking a bit about it and stuff like that. But yeah, now that we have both watched it, had you seen this before? No? Okay. What did you think?
It's good. I had a nice time. I think it's a really solid cast, really lovely performances in here, nice moments of brotherhood and friendship, and a couple very cool shots. Repeatedly, as this movie jumps around in time, it'll sort of give you a reset, like, we are now establishing this time and place, and here's the label for when and where we are. And you get these beautiful, just establishing shots of like moving through the space and what's happening. I loved those so much. Even if they're such a small part of the film, that's the bit that stuck out to me the most.
Yeah, there's some really neat stuff in here. Like you said, some great performances, some interesting. I don't want to say interesting choice of actors, but like I mentioned last week when I was pitching this that Lakeith Stanfield plays like a young Snoop Dogg. He's only in it for like a scene and a half. Like has like 40 seconds total of screen time. But I like stuff like that. The small, I guess you could say, Easter eggs, like Easter egg cameo kind of thing.
Historical footnotes.
Right. Historical references.
Yeah. See also Tupac.
Right, yeah, like there's stuff like that Jare going on to form Aftermath, stuff like that. Like I think they did a good job with the story to make it feel complete and yet still like, oh, there's so much more to this story that we're not getting here. And yeah, I loved it a lot. I think one of the few like bad things that I could say about it is that it was kind of obvious when they glossed over something, and I was just like, no, I want more. Dig in, like tell me this story.
Or it's like, now is very clearly the time when we acknowledge this. Here is Ice Cube writing Friday.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I think this was a really, really good movie that I was impressed with a lot, that I kind of wished went in deeper. Like I almost wish this was like the HBO drama, the
Mm-hmm.
like prestige format television show that would have gone into this story over multiple seasons, and dug into that, because I think they have enough stuff just packed into this movie to make like a multiple season show, and they crammed it all into one movie here, but it still felt paced really well, even though it
Yeah.
did gloss over things. It never truly felt like, oh, well, I missed the whole story. Like now I don't even know what you jumped all the way over here. What? How did that happen? It felt good. It had a consistent pace to it, which I thought was nice there. So, and I learned some things. So
yeah,
there you go.
I love to learn.
Exactly. The more you know. Cool. So I guess we can do a quick plot synopsis for anyone who might not know what happened in this movie / kind of in real life. I guess that's the other thing I should add is since I don't know what the actual facts are, I don't know exactly what they embellished in this to make work or make more dramatic. So I'm kind of taking it for a grain of salt. But there's also some things in here that's like, okay, that seems to line up with the like vague history that I do know here. So makes sense. But yeah, let's do a quick plot synopsis of this. Then we can get into some housekeeping and dive further into the movie. So yeah, I'm Melissa. I'm assuming you would like me to hop in on the plot.
I'm just staring right at you, nodding politely.
Yeah.
Please take this one. You're the greater expert of the two of us here.
You normally kind of do the plot synopses of this, but I feel like this is one you'd be like, I feel like you're better suited for this, Kyle.
Go for it.
Cool. Yes, so this takes place out in California, out in Compton, as the name implies. And yeah, we get to see the formation of the group N.W.A. As they are kind of doing their own thing, both music-wise in the drug game. They all kind of know each other vaguely through a friend of a friend or stuff like that. Yeah, and it's through hip hop. It's through Ice Cube's performances on stage that kind of start to bring them together. We're in the age where disco has already reached its peak and is kind of on its way downhill, on its way out, and they're still not really being like, what is this hip hop thing? They're not really understanding what it
starts
is.
In like 86, so hip hop is still fairly fresh.
Yes, yeah, and they start to be like, hey, what if we start recording these songs? What if we put this out on vinyl so that we can play this in the clubs and get this on the radio and stuff like that? And as Dr. Dre and Ice Cube are in there recording, they bring in some people from New York to record this one song. It doesn't go so well. They don't understand the slang over there in California. So they bring in Eazy-E to record this song. And at first, he's also not really understanding it. He's not really a rapper. But then he has a certain like charm to the way he says things, and it hits. And they're like, yes, more of that. And then based off of this record that they make, they get a record deal. They start building out the group. They start going on tour. And the rest is history. That's I guess kind of a basic plot synopsis of what's happening here. There's some ups and downs. They get into the beef within the crew, what's happening there. They get into Eazy-E's sickness and his health conditions, stuff like that. And yeah, I think the only other thing I have to say about the film is that it really makes for some nice tension in the film here. They know how to kind of have you on your edge of your seat, just being like, what's going to happen? Even if you already know, right? It's just like, oh man, this is intense. So yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. Is there any other stuff that you want to add to that that you think I kind of glossed over as like a...
I think we've got the starting point. As with any biopic, the log line of it is pretty clearly understood.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, there you go. That is our spoiler free thoughts for N.W.A. as Straight Out of Compton. I just, it's history. That spoilers, I guess, is a weird thing to say too. So we will take a quick break for housekeeping, and when we come back, we will dive further into Straight Out of Compton. Here at the Whatnauts, we make multiple different shows, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. If you enjoy our shows, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is the best place to show your support. For just $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes, and at our $3 tier, a Patreon-exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club. You can even get a shout out and thank you on most of our shows at the $5 tier. And if you're one of our patrons already, thank you so much. It means the world to us. You can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in The Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch for video versions of the shows, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something else, head over to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. All right, and we are back once again. A big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. It means a ton. We love you a lot. Over there on the Pilots Club this month, we got to talk about Winning Time, the rise of the Lakers dynasty, which was an interesting first episode. Some stylistic choices I was not expecting, some comedy in there that I was not expecting, but I had a blast with that show. It's absolutely one that I am looking forward to returning to down the road, whether that's on my own time or maybe here on the show. You never know. Who knows? But yeah, that was a fun one to check out. Speaking of the review show, right here last week on the show, we got to talk about season 1 of True Detective. This was Melissa's pick, kind of our start to Shame-Tember. We normally do movies, but True Detective season 1 kind of being an anthology series from season to season, it just fit, right? And you hadn't seen it yet. I had, so it was just like, we need to just cross this off.
It was extremely valuable. I was so happy to see how flat that circle was. I could only imagine before.
It's a flat circle. You can taste the ash in the atmosphere. Good stuff. Yeah, we had fun with that. That's an incredible, incredible show. So go check out our thoughts on True Detective season 1. And then over on the Captain's Log this past week, both Melissa and I got to go see Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue in theaters. It was the 25th anniversary of the film. We've also covered that here on the review show a long time ago. And it's one of my favorite films from one of my favorite creators. I didn't think I was ever gonna get to go see this in a movie theater, but I did. I had a blast. It was fantastic. So we got to talk about that. Also, you already mentioned the karaoke birthday party that you got to go to. We had some karaoke talk on there. What might be some good songs, some bad songs, some good bits,
some non-songs. Can you get up there and just do a monologue?
Absolutely. So we had a fun time on the Captain's Log this past week. Go check that out. And that's kind of about it for housekeeping right now. So I guess without further ado, let's get into spoilers. All right. Again, it's just a strange thing to say, like spoilers for Straight Outta Compton, something that happened in real life.
There's a lot of this I did not know. Like, I was aware that Eazy-E had passed away, but I had no idea when or how. So anytime anything happened in the movie, I'm like, is this it? Is this what kills him? What does it?
Right? There's
and I'm
so
like, I don't even know if it's like I didn't even know if it was within the scope of the movie. I'm like, he might have died like 5 years ago. I really had no handle on it. I just knew this person was deceased and no further details.
Yeah. This is something that I also like. I knew he had passed away some time ago. I think at the time I had heard it was from AIDS, but like that didn't really stick with me. Again, West Coast hip hop is not as much my thing. There's a few people that I listen to. I've listened to all of N.W.A's catalog, stuff like that. So I have vague knowledge of this, but I remember when the movie came out that this was also like, oh, I kind of heard people being like, yeah, this is kind of a love letter to Eazy-E, like it does, right by him. His wife Tamika is credited as a producer on the movie, which I thought was nice. But yeah, like that was just like I don't remember exactly. I vaguely know. I think it was illness. I don't know. But yeah, so they just had like lots of good tense scenes where like something is about to kick off here.
Right?
Like,
yeah, like
anything could cause trouble here.
Yeah, when Suge Knight has him beat up in the recording studio, I think. I was like, that's it. This must kill him. That looks so brutal. I mean, it's a recording studio, so you're just seeing everything through that window on like the top half of the wall. So like they've knocked him down to the ground, so you can't see it. You just see the torsos of the men who are beating him up, and it seems lethal. And then you cut to him sitting by Paul Giamatti's pool with just like a bloody nose and a split lip. I'm like, that was it? You're still alive?
I mean, granted, yeah. It's dark, right? He has darker skin. You probably can't see all the bruising as well.
True,
yeah,
it is a nighttime scene.
Sure. And it is a night scene with Suge Knight in there. No. So we'll get to Suge Knight in a sec, because that's he's some wild stuff with him and with him in real life too. But yeah, man, let's continue on with Eazy-E then, because I thought the actor that played him was fantastic. Let's see, it was Jason Mitchell, who I'm not super familiar with in any of his other work. But he did a great job with Eazy-E. Yeah, I like that the movie kind of starts with him, and then like we kind of alluded to, ends up kind of being the heart of the movie, at least. And with him passing away at the end with AIDS, and him like getting the shout out in the credits, like, hey, like we kind of made this for you, essentially. But man, what a wild character, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting guy.
I did like the scene where he tries to rap for the first time. like to watch somebody go from I am reading these lyrics that have been written down to progressively I am owning this. I am saying this. It is in my own style. I am no longer reciting. I am now rapping.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting scene because I've seen that happen in real life too. Just like me and my friends like messing around and making little rap beats on Garage Band and stuff, and trying to write raps. And it's if you're not good at it in the first place, then it's kind of hard to write, like to have a good cadence to your rhymes and then know how to say that. Two, it's that much more difficult when someone else writes it for you and you don't know the way like that, like they were thinking the cadence would go here, because it sounds like Ice Cube wrote that song. And he has a very recognizable like cadence and flow to the way he raps. And so to see someone else get up there and just have a completely different style is like, this isn't really matching. And then, yeah, once he kind of like just somehow has his own spin on that, it's like, wait, that was it. And like, you can immediately tell because when he like that's where one of the things about this movie that I love is there's so many times where you see them or hear them playing around with a song or the lyrics of something or some musical like keyboard thing, and they're so close. They don't have it. They don't, like, it's wrong. The notes are off. It's in the wrong key. It's this or that. And then all of a sudden they hit it. And it's like, that was it. I recognize that. I know that song. And yeah, immediately when he hits that first line, it's just like, oh, there it is. He nailed it. And it sounds exactly like him. It's amazing. It's incredible. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. And then to slightly skip ahead a bit, the one scene where N.W.A is playing around with what would become Ain't Nothing But a G thing for Snoop. And he's like, like when he's hitting that, and it's not that. No, don't do that. Okay, play up a little bit more, and then he hits it once, and you're just like, that's it. And that's when Snoop is like, I like that. That's cool. Okay, let's go. I'm just like, this is so cool. I love seeing this. Who knows if it actually happened that way or not, but it makes for a damn good scene. So yeah. But yeah, I like seeing kind of all that magic come together and be like, I know that song. I've heard that song. I listened to that a bit. I recognize that.
See, I know far less about this, admittedly. So I was not experiencing those same feelings. I was listening to things saying, I bet this is a very well-known song that I don't know.
Yep, absolutely is. Absolutely. Yeah, but I think Eazy-E is a great character to follow through a lot of this movie, because I feel like his life is almost one of the ones that changes the most. I feel like, right, where he is a drug dealer at first, and he seems to be fairly competent at what he's doing. That's kind of why they bring him in at that. Yeah. Like, I don't.
Right. How do we know how to judge incompetence in drug dealing? The drugs got dealt. I guess he's good at his job.
Right. But they kind of bring him into N.W.A for his business acumen, and that's what kind of launches them. That's what helps them get the record deal. But he also only knows so much, right? And so when bad vibes start happening from Paul Giamatti's character, which we haven't even mentioned Paul Giamatti in this, who's also fantastic. When his character has been essentially screwing them over from the get-go without them knowing it, and then Ice Cube starting to get some bad vibes here, and then Dre also being like, I looked into this stuff and yeah, something's not right. Eazy-E's not really smart enough to like figure that stuff out or recognize it. He needs multiple people to tell him that, not only to members of the group, but his wife to also be like, actually, they were right.
Yeah.
And this sucks. But yeah. I mean, he's launched into stardom. He becomes this new businessman, and he tries to get the band back together. But then, yeah, his life is again kind of derailed by AIDS. And it's almost like one thing after another here. He's just a fun character to follow.
Yeah, and
it's that's a weird thing to say.
He's a compelling character to follow, especially when you see him develop this cough, which could mean a lot of different things. It's not it's such a clear signifier, like in a movie where somebody coughs and they have blood in a handkerchief and you're like, that's tuberculosis. I know the film language for that specific symptom. The general coughing, you don't know, at least me, not knowing the man's life or how it ended, I didn't know specifically what it meant. And then he gets that when he collapses, he gets an HIV diagnosis, and it goes downhill so fast. I think I remember reading, he was dead like within like a couple weeks after getting the diagnosis. He slips into a coma so fast, and they talk about, let's get the group back together, let's record together again. And then before it can happen, like he's like practicing for that, and then he collapses, and he's so quickly in a coma and like out of their reach, and they can go and see him and talk to him, but they can't hear him ever again. It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah, I really liked the scene where when he's I think just slipped into the coma. Dre is on his way out, and Ice Cube is coming in to like go visit him, but Ice can't really bring himself to go in the room because he's like, I mean, I can talk to him, but that's not what I need. Like I need him to talk to me. I need to hear him say something, and I can't. And he just kind of leaves it at that, at least as far as we know in the movie. And man, like that's rough, right? Of just like the thing here that I need is not to go sit by his bed and say the last things that I need to say to you. It's I need to hear you say something here, and I'm not gonna get that.
Yes.
Man, rough stuff.
I also found the scene where Dre learns that his little brother died when he gets that call from his mom. When all the guys are around him to support him, I thought that was very, very touching. They're all reaching out. It's one of the best group hugs I've seen in cinema. That's another heartbreaking element of the story. It is kind of funny to me that before he gets the call that his brother died, he's on the phone with his brother and he's saying, like, the brother wants to go and join him on tour. And he's like, yeah, coming up soon. You're going to be able to come out and join me. And he makes a joke like, bring your condoms with you. And the brother sort of chuckles like, yeah, I haven't used them since you gave them to me. And then so like in the next scene
years ago.
Right. And then in the next scene, he's dead. I'm like, it implies that he died a virgin, which is very sad and funny and odd that plot point is set up for him to then immediately die.
Yeah. Man, yeah, that was also something that I feel like I had heard once before, but didn't really remember. So I kind of wasn't expecting it when it happened. Of like he gets the call, and I was like, is it his mom? Is that what the thing is going to be? But no, it was his mom that called. So it's his brother, and I was like,
yeah.
And then it was like, I think I vaguely remember hearing that too, that he had a brother that died. I don't know. But yeah, that was an intense scene too. They each kind of have their moments. However, one of the weak points of the film for me is that, I mean, part of me wants to say rightly so, but when I think of N.W.A. today, or just in like a general pop culture, like this is what people think of when they think of N.W.A. is, yeah, they think of Dr. Dre, they think of Ice Cube, and then like Eazy-E is that third pillar. I don't really know if I could. I mean, I know MC Ren. I've heard of DJ Yella, but like they kind of get the short end of the stick, both in this movie and like it in general, like what people think of. They don't really recognize them as much. I did see that. I think Yella and MC Ren were both consultants on the film here too, so they were also involved. But I like, we get so much of Ice Cube's story, of Eazy-E's story, of Dre's story, that it feels like these guys were just left out. And it's like, I kind of want to know what their story is too.
Yeah. Like,
even if it's not as dramatic or stuff like that. And this is also where I was like, it just, if this was a TV show,
yes,
like I would know so much more about them, but I just feel like I didn't get to know them.
Yeah, it feels like just a consequence of having these more prolific figures in the group, and the film's already like 2 hours and 27 minutes long. Like there's just so much to cover in the show in relatively so short a time compared to if this was an HBO limited series.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like it's an ensemble cast for the group themselves, right? But then again, like we've already alluded to, there's also this like ensemble cast of like important historical characters that they run into just kind of on their path to stardom and all of that stuff. Like you could have an entire movie alone on all of the stuff that Suge Knight has been up to over there on Death Row Records. In fact, I think during the production of this movie, if not shortly after, he ran over two people, killing at least one of them in there. Like the not the actor, but like the real life Suge Knight did this. Like, and it's just like, man, that like shit is still happening while they're making this. Is just kind of bonkers.
All I knew about Suge Knight is that I've at least heard it said that he was largely the cause of Tupac's death. And I know a lot of that is still, it cannot be determined at this point in time. So I had that small bit of context going into this, but I don't know if I've ever seen another movie with normal human characters in a normal human world that has no like superheroes or sci-fi or fantasy or espionage, even just normal grounded human stories where I've looked at a character and thought that's a super villain. Should I just radiate super villain energy in this movie?
Yeah, you don't want to fuck with Suge Knight, that's for sure. Yeah, but yeah, like them like running into him. I thought it was interesting that like I was kind of half expecting like a young Eminem to like make an appearance like right at the end of this, but instead they get the like, and Jare like looks back at the camera and says, I'm starting Aftermath, right? Like
Mm.
they get that moment instead, and then you get to see him in the credits.
Mm.
Have you seen 8 Mile?
I have not, but that movie looms large just among our generation. I think I remember like
Yeah,
most
absolutely.
other kids in my 6th grade class were obsessed with 8 Mile.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's something that like I kind of wish I knew what the zeitgeist, I guess that's the right word, what it was it like in, yeah, like 6th grade through like middle school, early high school, like for people that age when this movie came out and the year
Mm.
after, or the like 2 years after, because I missed shit. I remember people still talking about 8 Mile in like high
Mm.
school and stuff
Mm.
like that. What was that zeitgeist like? Because yeah, everyone was so obsessed with 8 Mile for us, for our generation.
Yes.
When it came out, they knew all the raps that were in there, all
Mm.
the raps, all of that stuff. I never watched it until later on. I just did not have access to it and stuff like I knew it existed. I knew it was about the
Mm.
story of Eminem, all of that stuff. Did not know that like Anthony Mackie is in that and plays the one that like, and I bet Clarence parents have real good something, you know. Uh,
Mm.
uh, but like I wonder if this had that same effect. Is what I'm wondering, if it like sparked an interest in the group even more. Did they go back to their songs and you know, is Eazy-E selling more records now?
Oh.
What
Yeah.
was the effect of
What
this?
were 6th graders of 2015? Were they also obsessed with Straight Outta Compton?
Right,
The way they were obsessed with 8 Mile. I don't know a lot
absolutely.
about hip hop, but I do remember what the rest of my class listened to at that age. The suburban St. Louis 6th graders were really into 8 Mile, 50 Cent at that time, and of course our local Nelly.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
remember these few
Saint
facts.
Lunatics.
Chingy, is he from here?
Yep. Actually, where is he from? Where is Chingy from? He might be Chicago. I don't
Hmm.
remember where
A
Chingy's from.
Midwesterner at least. We
Yeah.
accept St. Louis is a welcoming town. We accept all Midwesterners. Eminem, you're included from up there in Detroit.
Detroit. Detroit's kind of like its own style. I mean, there's all these
it
little
really is. Its own
pockets
pizza, its own music.
of style. You got the like East Coast New York stuff. You got Atlanta. You got the chopped and screwed Texas stuff. You got the like Midwest, yeah, with like Nelly and the Saint Lunatics. You got Detroit up there with Eminem and D12 and Royce da 5'9". You got Minneapolis with Rhymes Hayers and Atmosphere and all that stuff. And yeah, California with N.W.A and Snoop Dogg, and then some favorites of mine, Murs and Blue and stuff like that. And just so many different styles in each little pocket. It's wild.
Like
Chicago
barbecue,
has
like
its
pizza.
own. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, man, like I just wish we got more of these smaller side characters. But I brought up 8 Mile because yeah, I was kind of expecting like a little small cameo in this, especially like I was not expecting it going into the movie. But yeah, as I started to see Snoop, and it's like, okay, Suge Knight is more a part of this than I thought, and okay, there's Tupac, and things aren't going so well in the group, and I know, like we saw the billboard for Dre's solo album, The Chronic. It seems like he's going to be on to bigger and better things by the end of this, and those bigger and better things are him working with Eminem and working with 50 Cent and stuff like that. And yeah, we get pictures of him, video of him in the credits, but that's kind of about it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was a good way to include that. I liked that we got these. It's not just like a still picture and then in 2002, Dre went on to dude, it's like that'd be so boring, but you actually can use the real use
I think that's a lot more effective in this context. Yeah, even if you don't neat. If you're like me and you don't know this world very well, you can still show like red carpet photos or clips from music videos or something, some of the visuals and the iconography. I'm like, oh, I do know these. I know some of this.
Yep, absolutely.
You're able to communicate a lot with just a couple video clips over the end credits.
Yeah. And then we get the same thing just for Ice Cube to all of his movies and stuff, and just to see how much
State of the Union is in here.
His life has just changed. Yeah. Exactly.
I want to say briefly about the wide range of supporting characters we have in the movie. Even though we don't never spend a lot of time with any of them, I feel like all of the wives and girlfriends of the group feel very sincere. They're not there often. They're not particularly rich characters just for the sake of time. I imagine there's just, again, so much to cover, but they felt authentic to me. Those romances were sweet. Like when you see Eazy-E and Tamika together in bed in one scene, that's really lovely.
Yeah. I only recognized one of those actors, Ice Cube's wife in the movie. That actress goes on to play Storm she's the younger, newer
that's
Storm.
That's what I know that name from. Yes.
Yeah. That's the only one that I recognize though. But yeah. Man, we have to also talk about Paul Giamatti's character here. Well, what was his name again? It was where is he?
Jerry Heller.
Jerry Heller, thank you.
I kept wanting to call him Marty Wolf, which is his character from Big Fat Liar.
What did you think of him in this movie? Especially kind of just having come off of watching the pilot of Wedding Time, where we get to see Jerry Buss being portrayed in this kind of bigger, larger than life way. I just felt like they were almost similar vibes from each of them in a strange way. I
love the introduction of Jerry, which is that Eazy-E goes to the literal record printer, the press shop to get the stack of records. Yes. And then you just hear Paul Giamatti say, "Excuse me," and then the camera pans over and he's just there. He's always been there, and the camera just never looked at him before. It's just, there's no lead up. He's just suddenly, he has arrived. Hi, I must intrude upon this movie.
Absolutely.
And I do like that you're not sure how serious to take him at first. He's got an office, just not even an office, just a wall and a desk in the record warehouse, which I don't believe is normal for record executives, that you're in the same room as the machines that actually press everything and the boxes of stickers to put at the beginning. Exactly. If you saw him in any other context, you might think, oh, this is a legit guy. But when you see him just on the factory floor, you're like, I don't know. What is your deal?
Foreman? What's happening here? What's going on? No, but that is part of the joke, is when he says the people that he's worked with and gives here's my portfolio. Eazy-E there first doesn't recognize half of the names, but then it's are any of these from this decade? It's you haven't been in the business for a long time.
Yeah, he's not impressed that you've worked with Grand Funk Railroad.
Which it's just a side note, something else that I thought was really neat about again, not really Easter eggs, but like the closest thing to an Easter egg that you could get in this is whenever they show records in this, there's like in the back in the background, they are often important records for hip hop and sampling and stuff like that. And so it's neat to just see, like, there was that one scene where you first get introduced to N.W.A, and he's like lying on a pile of records, and you're like, oh, yep, that got turned into something that got sampled in this other song. Yeah, that was just neat that like you get to see those things there. But yeah, that's kind of the thing with Jerry Heller as a character, is you don't exactly know how sincere he's being from the start. And you can kind of assume that he's probably going to take advantage of them somehow, some way. But you don't know. Like, it could also be a case of just like he sees something but does not have the vision to take it farther, right? And so he's like honest to God, like trying to help them at the start, but just doesn't understand that, like, but it could be bigger. Like, that could have been the scenario. But it's absolutely not. He's like one of the few people that sees just how big this truly can be and decides to take advantage of them in his own kind of last ditch effort to kind of save himself and do well by himself. Because that scene where Eazy-E fires him, like as he's like at the end there, like, he is so emotionally attached to N.W.A and their success, and like him being the manager there. Like, he's desperate. He's like crying, like, no, don't fire me. Like, I need this. I liked that scene a lot, but it was just like this. Whoa, dude, do you not even realize what you're doing here? Like,
what also?
I don't know. Yeah,
he has a nice house, but when he's accused of taking all of this money from the group, you're like, well, where is the money? Why doesn't he have a nicer house or a nicer car or his own set of bikini babes? Like, where is the wealth going? Because you don't see it anywhere. There's nothing that clearly indicates, oh, Jerry has also experienced a rise in status. He kind of looks the same. We don't see him have his own new corner office somewhere that's not in the middle of a factory floor.
I think that's part of his shtick. I think that's part of his. I think that's part of his game, is like, if he can keep the wealth in his home or like in his bank accounts and not be flashy about it. If not, just, I have my office in the record warehouse itself, right? Like, it kind of gives him this illusion of like, but I'm not screwing you over. Like, I don't have the fancy, you have a fancier car than me. Right. Like, look at my office. Like, I'm stuck here. Whereas they're all like parties in the pool and drugs and all that stuff and all these women and cars. And yeah, it's just like, I think that's kind of a self-defense mechanism. At least that's how I took it to be. But who knows? I don't know if he's still around or not. Who knows?
I did a cursory look through the IMDb trivia, my first source for all information. And it was saying that he didn't really have I think the movie paints him as more of a villain than perhaps he was in real life, that he didn't have the same falling out with Eazy-E in real life as he did in the movie, but he hasn't said a lot about it because he's like, Eazy-E isn't here to share his side of the story, so why would I? You know, just sort of out of fairness, I'm not going to say anything about a situation where the other party isn't here to provide the other angle.
I gotcha, yeah. So it's just a quick look at Jerry Heller's Wikipedia page. Let's see. Discovered Eazy-E, N.W.A, also signed or managed the likes of the Black Eyed Peas, above the law, the DOC, who was mentioned here in this movie, Bone Thugs and Harmony, who was also mentioned here in this movie. So I had some interesting clients, but yeah, he ended up, I think, passing away in 2016.
Oh.
Yeah, 2016. So no longer with us here. But yeah, so just a quick glance at some of the other people he represented in that same kind of stuff. There's also other names among these things: Journey, Marvin Gaye, Van Morrison, War. Like it looked like he had a good catalog. Crosby, Stills and Nash, Tina Turner, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Otis Redding, The Who, REO Speedwagon, Black Sabbath, Styx.
Quite a variety.
Yeah, wild. But yeah, that's an interesting way to both like in part like pay your respect, but also not pay your respect. Is that the right way? Just like, yeah, if he's not here to say his side, I'm not gonna say my side there. That's interesting. But yeah, he was at least a fun character on screen.
Yes.
To
and he's
watch.
got enough positive qualities. Like when the police are harassing the group outside of the recording studio, he very sincerely sticks up for them. Like, do not do this to these young men. They are artists. They're working very hard. You've no cause to do this. I'm going to call some people. I'm going to take care of it. He seems like he does take care of those boys and really be aware that I was struck by how young they are. They are teenagers when all of this is happening. And he does try to play this fatherly role towards them. And like, I will take care of things for you. I am watching out for you. I'm trying to give you life advice also, in addition to running your business. And that it does put him in a situation where it's like, oh, he's taking care of them. But also, oh, he's just saying, I'll take care of it. And then you don't see what he's actually doing. And he could be doing very shady things.
Yeah. Yeah, all of the legal jargon and mumbo jumbo and all the contracts and paperwork. Just like, don't worry about it. I'll take, if it's something that you should know, I'll let you know, right? And that's how everyone gets screwed over. I think that kind of leads into something else that I was not aware of being I'll go as far as a major portion of this movie, or major component to this movie here, was all the Rodney King stuff. I probably could have put two and two together that stuff was happening around the same time, but it's in this movie in a way that I was not expecting. It's also kind of this like secret centerpiece to the movie, the police brutality. As well as their song "Fuck the Police," just that the scene we talked about where he is defending them from the cops. Then we get the scene where everyone is starting to kind of think the same thoughts of like, well, the group is split up. We had a good thing going. This whole police brutality situation is getting worse. One thing that brought everyone together was music and this song. And it's a theme that's in there. It's also kind of an understated theme. Not is understated the right word? It's understated. It's present, but it's not explicit. If that makes sense, right? And they do these like slow scenes where they're driving through like just the like run down areas of Compton, and just how it's been abandoned and left to the people that live there that have no money and cannot fix these things, right? And just like the image of the blood member and the Crip member with their bandanas tied together.
Very striking.
That stuff vaguely happened. I know that kind of stuff happened in and around that time for that specific situation. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of all of that. but yeah, like man, just like it was neat to see that stuff, and without the movie saying it, like you can tell it's like, okay, they're thinking of a way to come together to unite people. Like that, I really appreciated moments like that in the film, where even though there's a lot that happens in this movie and it happens very quickly, it felt like this was a scene that was like, hey, but we also understand these slower moments. We don't need to spell everything out for you.
Yes.
We can kind of you can pick up some things and read between the lines here. We know that you know what's happening, but I that was a component to the film that I wasn't expecting to be in there as much as it was, but it impacted them all, and it was a thing that they were dealing with in the midst of their business and their music and their lives. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, a very valuable component to the movie for sure.
Absolutely. Any other kind of like characters or something else that you
I
want
to talk about those shots I mentioned earlier.
Yes, please.
There's two of these that I rewound and watched again. Like, I was so astounded. It's fairly early on. I think it's like 1988, maybe like just before the group goes on tour, where everybody is rolling up to like a roller skating club called Skateland. And it's this slow motion shot of them, like, not fully slow motion, but kind of slow, kind of floaty, kind of dreamy, of them getting out of their cars and walking through this big crowd of excited, friendly people through the doors into Skateland. It's a lot like the Goodfellas shot of him walking through the back of the restaurant. It reminded me a lot of that, but it doesn't go on so long and so deep. And I think they're playing they're playing the song from Good Burger. The George Clinton song where they dance in the mental institution. I think it's that song.
I remember that scene. I don't remember how that song goes though, but yeah.
And like the place has got these neon lights on the outside, and the place has got this sort of neon glow with it. It's a really beautiful shot. And then later in the movie, when I think it's somebody's Wet and Wild party, the camera starts underwater, and there's dollar bills floating in the water like the Nirvana cover, and it comes up out of the water and out of the pool through like the crowd of like all of these people in like swimsuits dancing around to I think that's
booty rocking everywhere.
It's that one is Flashlight by Parliament.
Flashlight.
That's another beautiful shot. Just these sort of slow, graceful scene setting things to give you this like little bit of like breathing room and like settling into, okay, we're in a different time and place now, and really taking in the vibe that was around these guys, the vibe of enthusiasm and partying in this really positive way. Like there's not any of the dark sides of it. Nothing about those couple shots feels sinister or they're partying, then they're going to die soon. And then there's drugs and violence and things like, no, it's just this very pure, beautiful vibe moment twice in the movie. I love those. Yeah.
And I already kind of mentioned the records that are kind of displayed in the crates and stuff in the background, or in these different shots that are like famous samples or stuff like that. Something else they do with the soundtrack a lot is the songs that are playing are songs that like N.W.A went on to sample in like his songs and stuff like that. Just not only him, but just like and it's just it's an interesting touch of like, of course they're playing disco at some of the parties that they're at, because disco was the kind of latest and greatest like big thing. Even though it's on its way out, people still don't understand hip hop the way that we understand it today, right? Or it like sometimes like you like they just don't have as much of it, right? Like you can go on Spotify today and there's millions upon millions of artists who then have hundreds of thousands of millions of songs. And back then it was like they didn't have much in terms of like hip hop songs that they could play in the clubs and do all of that stuff. Which is an interesting thing, because when hip hop got started, like people like Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash did not want it recorded. They thought like it was about the like social experience, to be at this club, be at this party, experience it live, and that's not something you can record and like pass out and have the same experience with. And they're not necessarily wrong with that, but it's interesting to know that like that's where it first started, and then it's like, but what if we record things and make a lot of money and do all of that, and then just to see where it is now and how much influence hip hop has had on mainstream culture is wild. But yeah, shout out to the music in this. They had some good songs in this for sure. Let's see what else. Yeah, great cinematography in this. I loved it a lot. I wish there was more to it. I mean, it was already like 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
It did not. I don't think pacing was an issue really with the film. I was always engaged. Something was always happening. It moved along nicely. I do think it glossed over some things for sure. Like there's the scene where Ice Cube's wife is like, "Look, it's you guys on TV. Wow, look how young you were back then." It was like, wait, that happened last week. What are you talking about? They just made that song. That was like 5 years ago, I think. Yeah. But so like the way like exactly what time it is not entirely clear. They do those really neat establishing shots, but sometimes the text that's on screen to establish like where they are and what year it is didn't, like the text itself didn't stand out to me exactly. Like I could always tell when they were doing an establishing shot and that text was on screen, but the text itself didn't stick in my mind the same way.
I like that the text was like handwriting. It looked like a label on the side of a mixtape or something, but
I think it was the N.W.A font. Like the original font that they wrote. Like you see the like N.W.A charts out in public. I think it's that same font.
Maybe, yeah. I did like that touch, but yeah, it could have been a little bit bigger or more noticeable. I was like doing my nails while I was watching this, and I kept like looking up, like I don't want to miss if they label somebody important who I'm supposed to know.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, I had a blast with this for sure.
This movie made me want to buy a gold chain. Not one of those huge ones like they have. I couldn't. If only.
You don't want the big like Flava Flav.
No,
like big old
no
watch,
here.
Gold chain as thick as your arm, right?
It was just nice to see so much jewelry. I don't know. Like, I don't think that's what I was supposed to walk away with the movie with. But like, I don't think I can't operate on that level. You know, I'm not on your tier. You've ascended to a higher plane to wear those giant chains or like those big earrings that are on some of the ladies. But I did watch the movie thinking like, I'd like a nice gold chain. That's a good look. Is there a more understated one for me, a white lady in her 30s who works in an office?
Next week, Melissa shows up in a Kangol cat, big hoop earrings, and a giant gold chain, a big iced out watch jacket on her wrist. Yeah, some like North Face parka on. It's great. a tracksuit or a Data's tracksuit, stomping in her Air Force Ones over here.
I wanted to mention that I looked up this director, F. Gary Gray, whose name I recognized. We've covered him earlier this year. He directed Fate of the Furious.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A movie I think I enjoyed more than most other people. I also recognize his name from Men in Black International, which is not an action comedy like the other Men in Blacks are. It's more of just a straightforward action movie. So it feels very different, but there are some good fight scenes in there. And I looked through his history. He did direct Friday, and he directed a number of really prolific, well-known hip-hop music videos from the 90s. He directed Set It Off with Queen Latifah. Mm-hmm. He's got, and he directed The Italian Job. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. With Mos Def, yeah, I remember that one. I liked that one. Jason Statham, he directed Be Cool. I recognize that one. Straight Outta Compton, The Fate of the Furious. Is that one of the ones that's the one they go to space, right?
No, that's F9. Fate of the Furious is the one with the baby. It's the one that introduces Cypher. They go to Antarctica. It's the one with the submarine.
Okay,
like all the smart
that was one
cars,
that I didn't like as much.
There's stuff in that movie I really dig. Like when all of the smart cars cascade out of the upper story parking garage and just flood New York City. I still think that's really fun.
Yeah. Let's see, music videos. He did Ice Cube's It Was a Good Day. He did Cypress Hills, I Ain't Going Out Like That. Coolio's Fantastic Voyage. Dr. Dre and Ice Cube's Natural Born Killers. Outkast, Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music. Let's see.
Sorry, Miss Jackson. There's an easier to pronounce Outkast you could have selected.
Waterfalls by TLC. That's an awesome one.
Iconic.
As you said, Miss Jackson by Outkast. Show Me What You Got by Jay-Z. Super High by Rick Ross. At least that's all the ones they have here on his Wikipedia page. Interesting. Okay, so he's more recognizable than I thought. I was like, I don't think I recognize this guy's work at all. But I didn't even look, and I know a lot of his stuff.
He's got quite a pedigree, specifically in this field. I think that's another strong point of this movie is that it is coming from such experience, such passionate creative forces behind it. I think you can tell this is directed by somebody who knows this world and cares about it very much and has experience here and has worked with some of these people before.
Absolutely. Man, they say The Fate of the Furious, the 23rd highest grossing film of all time. So good for him. Making it at least up in the top 50, right?
Oh, another IMDb trivia is that I don't know when this trivia fact was written. They don't timestamp the entries of the individual fun facts, but at least at one point, this movie was number 16 on movies with the most F-bombs.
Oh, nice.
There's 263 fucks in this movie. It's pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah. I wonder what that number would be if they count the act of fucking, if that counted towards the...
In the hotel party, the one in the Bye Felicia scene, there's I forget which one of them it is. He's just fully having sex with some girl in the bed with a light sheet
Eazy-E.
over them. Well,
that's Eazy-E.
Truly, the man lived large in his short years. Well, just everybody else is around them. Dude, there's just blowjobs happening right out there in public.
Getting a blowjob in the bathroom there. Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen this many nipples in a movie since Eyes Wide Shut. There's a lot of nudity in it.
Oh, God. Now that makes me wonder, is someone out there tracking movies with the most nipples in them. The weird things that happen in my brain. Okay. Anyways, yeah, good stuff. I was very impressed with this movie. I guess I haven't seen a huge number of biopics. So I can't really say, but I'll always have like a feeling in my heart that they are like hit or miss, of like they want to do a good thing, but maybe they're just not great, right? And then
Yeah,
it just
I think
kind of vague knowledge of like how like Get Rich or Die Trying was received, or even like Notorious came out. I don't know how it was received. I think just by the fact that I don't hear people talking about it at all, like might say something, right? But 8 Mile and this seem to have hit. So good on them. Good on them. This was a good one. Very impressed by this. So good stuff. Good stuff here. Cool. Do you have any other kind of things you want to add? Final thoughts with that?
I had a good
As I
time.
pull up bingo. Cool. Good times all around. All right. Well, now that we've done that, I'm going to pull up our bingo sheet here on.
Can finally cross off. This space has been waiting for this movie, Villain with a Pet, for Suge Knight and his ominous dog, who's always in his presence.
Yes, absolutely. I can finally cross that one off. Still does not give me another bingo, but I am inching closer. Melissa is in the lead still, but we are both right. We almost have our entire squares filled out. Melissa, you only need 3 more squares. I have like a good handful that I still need. But it's at the end of the year, so it's difficult to get these ones. So there you go. That is our bingo update for the week. So I'm going to get that off screen and say, Melissa, let's go to recommendations. If people enjoyed this movie, what else might they like?
I recently watched Almost Famous for the first time, which is, have you ever seen it?
I don't think so.
It's directed by Cameron Crowe, based on his real experiences, like writing for Rolling Stone when he was a teenager. So it's not a biopic, but it is based on some true events, and things are amalgamated and fictionalized, but there's a core of a true experience there. Where like as a teenager, he got really into rock music and wanted to be a journalist, and sort of, misrepresents himself to Rolling Stone and gets placed as like a 17-year-old, 16, maybe he's 15. He's very young. He is a teen. Do
you remember the host? So you and I are both big fans of the show Lost, but you know Patrick Klepek from his Lost podcast way back in the day, and I know him from his like video game journalism. He has almost that exact same story with with video games. He started writing about them and covering them when he was like 14, and like snuck into E3 to like be able to cover it and like do all of that stuff. Wild. Continue, please.
This kid, as like 15 years old, he gets himself embedded with a kind of up and coming fictional rock band named Stillwater as they open for Black Sabbath and go on like a North American tour. So it's all of these rowdy partying adults and like one 15-year-old boy with like a notepad trying to write things down and trying to get interviews. So if you want more of the decadence of a music star lifestyle, but also the concern of somebody get that boy out of here, you can watch Almost Famous.
There you go. Okay. Interesting. It's a good one.
Ah, I know you are going to talk about Hip Hop Family Tree. I really wish I had more
That's okay.
relevant material to recommend. I did write
have you
down
seen
Good
any
Burger.
other kind of? Oh, yeah, sure. Good Burger, always a classic.
It played that song, and I've just been thinking about that movie all weekend. Like, Good Burger's solid. And then if you want another Paul Giamatti is shady businessman, you can watch Big Fat Liar.
Yep, there you go. Have you seen any other kind of like music related biopics?
I have. I've seen a couple of them. Weird.
Sure.
More sincere ones, but I gotta mention Weird.
Recent one. I still haven't seen that one yet.
It's worth it. Weird is very fun. The parts of this movie kind of reminded me of Elvis, just in that that's also a movie where it's not really about major social events of the time, but you do see like the main character, the star, the musical icon of the film, watching the news and taking that into consideration as he writes his music. Like, I'd like to say something to the people about this thing that's happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have plenty of recommendations here.
Kyle's mostly going to take this.
So the first one, Hip Hop Family Tree. I actually have it right back here.
Oh yeah, it's a big one. It's a big book.
It up. It's here on screen. This is Hip Hop Family Tree Volume 1. I also own Volume 2 right back there. This is a comic book by Ed Piskor. I highly recommend this. If you are a hip hop fan, if you like the history of it, I highly recommend picking this up, because it's a comic that is made in the style of comics of that day and age of the 70s. Like, the pages are artificially yellowed and stuff to make them look darker and stuff like that. But yeah, it starts like square one basically of like Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash and all that stuff. And this first volume covers up through, it's the 70s through 1981. So you even get to see like them recording rappers' delight in this volume here. I will say this book is very dense. It is a lot of names, a lot of dates, and does not stop at that. It's this name, this date, he did that. This name, this date, he did that. But it's wild. It's a fun read. I know by the end of the year in 2023, there is an omnibus that is coming out that has all 5 volumes. It's going to be a big, thick hardcover that I am super excited about, and going to spend a lot of money on that one when it comes out, because I am excited. I think it's like 150.
Oh my god!
Bucks for all just this nice all-in-one hardbound, and I'm just like, yes, give it to me. I need it. But I cannot recommend that book enough. Please go check it out.
And it was very helpful for me, who knows nothing about this. Like, it did at least plant important like names and figures in my head. If you're new to this, that is a valuable educational resource. Yeah.
And here on the show, we discussed Hip Hop Family Tree Volume 1 back on episode 72, way back in 2019. So yeah, you guys can go check that one out. Other stuff. Yes. So you mentioned Elvis, which is an interesting recommendation, because that was a movie directed by Baz Luhrmann. Baz Luhrmann also directed the Netflix show The Get Down, which is a fictionalized retelling of the birth of hip hop. That is like entrenched, like the real events that happened are taking place, but the characters that the show is following are new. They're not real people, maybe loosely based off of other people, or like an amalgamation of some people there. But it makes an interesting story. I really, really enjoyed season 1 of that show. It only got 2 seasons, got canceled because it was very expensive. Also directed by Baz Luhrmann in season 1, and he is known for just extravagant sets. And yeah, this show, just the disco sets, the clubs, the like stylistic choices that they do to make things look like it's in the 70s. All of that is wild. That one is produced by Nas, if I'm not mistaken, as well. He does the opening narration, but the narration is raps, and it's he plays the main character when he's older and has made it on stage, and so he's rapping the previously on stuff, which is interesting. But yeah, that show, I loved season 1. Season 2, not as much. They had some issues, but would recommend that. It goes great with Hip Hop Family Tree if you want like a 1-2 punch kind of combination with that. If you want more biopics or biopics, of course, we already mentioned 8 Mile, which I guess is taking place concurrently to some of the events of this movie, which is neat because N.W.A goes on to make Aftermath, which is then where he discovers Eminem. We also, I haven't seen Get Rich or Die Tryin'. It was on our list of ones that I had not seen, but that's the fictionalized version of 50 Cent's upbringing, who also got to work with Dr. Dre. So maybe check that one out. Other things I would recommend would be the Wu-Tang show on Hulu. Wu-Tang, an American Saga. There's currently 3 seasons of that out right now. I love that show. It's incredible. That's so good to hear. Yeah. Man, the actor that plays Old Dirty Bastard nails it. Is it just a delight to see? Is wild. Yeah, I cannot recommend that show enough. That is when I kept saying, man, I wish this was a show that would dig into the family drama or the money troubles or their issues with producers or record labels. That show goes into that a little bit more. But yeah, I would recommend that. Go check out Wu-Tang, an American Saga.
I'm scrolling through our episode list to figure out if we ever have done a biopic before. I don't think so. We've done a couple things based on true events, like Remember the Titans and Angeline, the Peacock show about the
Angeline is the closest thing to a biopic. That
Landscapers is based on true events. Yeah, this is new for us.
Angeline was good. Yeah, good stuff. So there you go. I guess also go check out more of Gary Gray's catalog.
F. Gary Gray,
some good ones.
Like I said, it's very different from the other movies, but I think Men in Black International is worth checking out.
Okay, good stuff.
I have
not seen that one.
Men in Black International.
Good stuff. Okay, but that is all I have for recommendations right now. Melissa, it is your turn to do the pitches. It is Shame-Tember week 3. So what do you got for me this time?
I have 3 movies that are on my list of shame from my preteen movie nerd days.
Okay, interesting.
When I'm about 11 or 12, I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings. And those are these big sort of awards play movies. So it gets me a little more interested in other big adult Oscar buzzy movies from around that time. I'm starting to branch out into just stuff that isn't just kid stuff. And also I am watching At the Movies with Ebert and Roper every Sunday morning. I did that religiously for years. So there's a lot of like movies from the early 2000s that I have in my head. And I'm still young enough that I like, I'm not watching R-rated movies. I'm not even watching every PG-13 movie. So there was stuff I marked like, I really want to watch that someday. I think I'd like that. And I've never gotten around to it. Earlier this year, we watched Adaptation. That was a movie that had been on my list for 20 years.
Great one.
Because I saw it on like Ebert and Roper. So I've got 3 more of those. Pitch number 1. A movie I really wanted to see when it came out in 2003 because it was set in Japan and I was also trying to be into anime. Lost in Translation. Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation, starring Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson. A lonely, aging movie star named Bob Harris and a conflicted newlywed, Charlotte, meet in Tokyo. Bob is there to film a Japanese whiskey commercial. Charlotte is accompanying her celebrity photographer husband. Strangers in a foreign land, the two find escape, distraction, and understanding amidst the bright Tokyo lights after a chance meeting in the quiet lull of the hotel bar. They form a bond that is as unlikely as it is heartfelt and meaningful.
Interesting.
Pitch number 2. If you ask me personally, what is on my list of shame right up there in the top spot, it might be this movie. A movie I immediately clocked as, oh, I think I'd like that. I've mentioned it here on the show. I'd like to recommend this. I haven't watched it yet, but consider it. I need to get this thing off my list. This is Sideways. If you want to do back-to-back Paul Giamatti, this is our chance. Struggling writer and wine enthusiast Miles takes his engaged friend Jack on a trip to wine country for a last single guy bonding experience. While Miles wants to relax and enjoy the wine, Jack is in search of a fling before his wedding. Soon Jack is sleeping with Stephanie while her friend Maya connects with Miles. When Miles lets it slip that Jack is getting married, both women are furious, sending the trip into disarray. This movie stars Paul Giamatti and Thomas Hayden Church, 2 Spider-Man villains. Yep. 2 Spider-Man villains in wine country. What's not to love?
Interesting.
Like I said, this one's been high on my list. I think I've been saving it because this needs to be an experience. And you can make it an experience too. Get a wine. Get a cheese. Get a cracker. A charcuterie plate. You can have a whole afternoon theming your space to Sideways. If we choose this movie, I recommend you do so. Please drink a wine if we are to watch Sideways.
Okay. Interesting.
Pitch number 3, a movie that was not, when I saw this reviewed when I was like 12 years old, it didn't super compel me, but this year it has become something that's on my list of shame. This is Gangs of New York. Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York. I've been looking forward to the release of Killers of the Flower Moon, even though I have to admit, I have not seen very many Scorseses, and I have not seen very many of the Scorsese-DiCaprio pairings. I've seen Shutter Island and The Aviator. That's it. I still have to see Gangs of New York, The Departed, and Wolf of Wall Street. I intend to watch these last 3 movies before Killers of the Flower Moon comes out, so I can just make this podcast homework.
Yeah.
Amsterdam Vallon is a young Irish immigrant released from prison. He returns to the 5 Points, seeking revenge against his father's killer, William Cutting. This is Bill the Butcher, Daniel Day-Lewis in an impressive role. A powerful anti-immigrant gang leader. He knows that revenge can only be attained by infiltrating Cutting's inner circle. Amsterdam's journey becomes a fight for personal survival and to find a place for the Irish people in 1860s New York. So for early 2000s film nerddom, we can watch Lost in Translation, Sideways, or Gangs of New York.
Okay. Man, I think I'm gonna go with Sideways.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it actually has nothing to do with you and you being like, I need to cross this one off my list. No, Sandra Oh is also in this movie. And I don't recognize Virginia Madsen. What is she in?
It's a name I recognize. I would have to do an IMDb check.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure where I've seen her before.
But I'm picking it because of the Drops of God, the manga that we cut, like the wine related manga that we covered, and then I saw they made the live action adaptation of that on Apple TV, which was also good in its own right. And then I also recently watched another wine related movie.
What was it?
It was on Netflix. I think it was Uncorked. Is that it?
Yes.
I forget the name of it. I could look it up in my notes if I really want to here. But was also a similar concept. The guy was training to become a sommelier, and just like the ups and downs of that, and him having to learn how to recognize the different vintages and so like look at the color and the right light up against this thing, and it has notes of that, all of that stuff. I know that this is not the same kind of thing, right? They are not training to become sommeliers or anything like that. But just the fact that it was like wine related stood out to me, and it is an easy like, we have something to recommend that we've already covered.
Exactly. And like
for this, like
when we talked about
stuff, right?
Yes, when we talked about Drops of God, I did shout out Sideways, a movie that I knew had a large wine focus that I'd heard very good things about that I hadn't watched yet, but was like, I'm sure I'd like that whenever I do get to watching it. And I'm like, I have to see it. I'm tired of doing these theoretical recommendations. I want to put my money where my mouth is, and my mouth is around a glass of wine.
Good stuff. So yeah, I say we do Sideways, and I think I don't know if this is a review show first or not, because I don't think we're tracking it in any kind of way. Is this the first time we've done a thing where like the same actor in back to back? I don't stuff.
I don't know if we've done it from one week to the next week. We've certainly had our recurring favorites. I'd have to see if it ever has happened before, but yes, Shame Timber Paul Giamatti edition is here.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So next week, Sideways is what we are covering.
I challenge you. Go to your grocery store. Pick up like a night. You can find excellent wines for like $8 or $10 or $12. Get a cheese or something. Really think about it. That's what I intend to do. I will report back on my beverage and meal enjoyed alongside Sideways.
Yeah. I wonder if we have like a local like wine store around here that I could actually get
surely do.
Better recommendation. I know grocery stores sometimes have the like wine clerk that can recommend stuff, not to disparage them, but I feel like I would trust a recommendation from an actual wine store a little more than I would from at least in my local grocery store, they do have like labels like, we recommend this. These are some facts about it. So it depends on your local grocery store. I'm just letting you know, you don't have to go like to a wine shop and buy something that's $60. I wouldn't get something that's $60, but
exactly. Like you can get something very good for like $10. That's what's fun about wine is that like it can be very expensive, but it also can be very cheap.
Yeah. That movie I was talking about earlier is in fact called Uncorked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Also, I forgot to shout out stuff like Beach Street. Go watch Beach Street if you liked Straight Outta Compton. Beach Street was a good one. I watched that earlier this year too. Anyways, next week, Sideways is what we shall do for Shame Timber, and that will wrap Shame Timber up. And then after that, the weekend of the 24th, we will be back to our end of the month special, which we've been covering Hellboy. So keep an eye out for that. So yeah, good stuff indeed. Melissa, where can the people find you on the interwebs?
You can still find me on the apps known as Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. I have another podcast. I haven't updated it in a while, but it is called Saturday Morning Obscurities. It's a show I host with my brother, talking about weird old kid shows you feel like only you remember. If you enjoyed Straight Outta Compton, we did an episode on the Nickelodeon kids sitcom My Brother and Me. So if you want another little piece of black culture from the 90s, we watched My Brother and Me. A show that's still really held up from the 2 random episodes we picked. I had a great time with My Brother and Me.
Good stuff. Good stuff. You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on most of the social media places. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are typically at the Whatnauts on all the social medias. We're not at that. We are at the Whatnauts official. If you're watching this on YouTube, we got plenty more videos right over there for you to check out. We would love the support, so please go like, share, and subscribe. But yeah, this has been number 270 of the Whatnauts review show. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.